gave me a platform and a microphone. So I can talk about this stuff for literally hours. Okay, so I'm Julianne Marentet. I'm a healing minister. Basically what that means is I'm here to raise the vibe and make everybody feel cool. Yeah. So I am certified in several different modalities that I use in my treatments with people, including forensic healing, cognitive behavioral therapy, neuro-linguistic programming, access bars. There's a few more in there, but they're not coming to mind. I like to use various forms of healing when I'm working with people because A, everybody's different and we have to come at their healing a little bit differently, so you need to personalize. And I also like to come at it from the standpoint of body, mind, and soul, because the roots of any problem that you're having are going to be digging deep into all those areas of your life, and if you just pluck them out in one area, they're still going to grow back from those others. So we kind of have to be a little bit multifaceted that way. So I'm definitely body, mind, and soul when I do healing work with people. The whole basis of what I do is based on the fact that I know that each and every one of us is sacred. I'm all about the sacred self. We have all been taught from day one when we come down here to this lovely little planet that we have to fit in, we have to compete, we have to meet certain standards, we have to follow certain rules of behavior, and we have to be liked. We learn that there is scarcity and not enough, and that we have to scramble and struggle. We learn that life is hard. And that's just what society has basically transformed into, but none of those things are actually true. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, but I've lived my entire life up to that point, and yeah, it is true, because my entire life has been all those things. It's been pain and problem and a little bit of ups, but a lot of downs. And that's only because you haven't been living from the sacred self. You've been living from this weird little game piece, trying to follow all these rules, to this overly complex game we've made in our society, when in reality, you came down here to expand and grow and experience, see what we could do in this physical realm. You came to enjoy. And very few times in life are people taught to put their joy first. But if you do, you will come out the better for it. Now, I say all that, and it sounds really nice, and it sounds really good, and all floofy, and it's supposed to make you feel better. But there's probably something going on in the back of your mind saying, well, that's lovely, however, how do I put that to work for me? And how do you prove this to me that that's real? I'd love to believe this story, but I have X amount of years under my belt to prove that that's not true. Well, now we get to the fun stuff. Now, I get to tell you all about quantum physics! Okay, so science has actually proven what all the shamans and wise women and teachers and druids and all of those people have been telling us for millennia. We are powerful sacred beings. We are spirits inhabiting a physical body, not the other way around. And here's how we know. Okay, has everybody heard of Albert Einstein? Okay, so great physicist. He was very famous. And what is he famous for? What is his famous theory? Anybody?
E equals MC squared.
E equals MC squared. Of course, everybody knows that. And in 6th grade, you wrote it on the chalkboard pretending to look really intelligent so everybody would be really impressed. But do you know what E equals MC squared actually means?
Energy.
Yeah. What about energy? It means, basically, that energy transforms into the physical. So there is no such thing as physical, really. Everything breaks down into energy. E equals MC squared means that everything at its base level is energy at different densities and frequencies. So if that means everything is energy, that means you and I are also energy. Here's another one. Has anybody heard of Heisenberg? And no, I don't mean from Breaking Bad. Wilhelm Heisenberg was another physicist, and he was one of the ones who actually helped with a lovely little experiment back in the day called the double split experiment. Has anybody heard of the double split? Yay! It's my favorite because they came up with the Copenhagen interpretation based on this experiment, and it's actually been done over and over again using different methods, and it proves the exact same thing. So basically what it was an experiment to see whether photons, when they are fired, are a wave, like energy, or if they become particles. What they found in the Copenhagen interpretation was that these molecules could be both. They could be beautiful waves of energy, or they could be particles. And the only thing that changed it, that made it any different, was the scientists who were actually conducting the experiment and witnessing the results. It changed based on who was in the room, who was conducting, who was watching. So what does that mean? It means there's an observer effect, is what it's called in quantum physics. The observer effect means that we, the observer, with our thoughts, our perceptions, our ideas, and our beliefs, are changing that energy that's out there in the world into physical matter. Because it's great to say, okay, E equals mc squared, energy changes into matter. But how? It's us, it's our perception, it's our awareness, it's our beliefs and our emotions that actually change it in the physical world. Well, how do we know it's us? How do we know we're actually connected? Here's another one. Has anybody heard of quantum entanglement? Quantum entanglement is actually something that freaked Einstein out. He called it spooky action at a distance. And basically what it's saying is at one point, all the energy in the world, in the universe, was condensed into one small little packet. And we had the Big Bang. Once it exploded, they were no longer connected. However, it seemed that way. But they have conducted experiments that show that atoms that were once together, even when they're placed miles and miles and miles apart, if you fiddle with one, give it a little tickle, the other one jiggles too, just like the one that you're manipulating. How can that possibly be? They are communicating instantaneously from miles apart. It's because, one more lovely little quantum physics phrase, it is because of the Planck field. Max Planck, another physicist, he discovered that there is this beautiful pool of infinite potential energy called quanta that's surrounding us and we are actually part of at all times. We're kind of condensed within it. If you think of it as almost like a lake of water, and then every once in a while the physical parts of it are the frozen things that you can feel are solid. So that's kind of what it is, but more in an energy field. So, if this is all around us, we are actually connected through this quanta, and it's instantaneously communicating. Anything that has been connected at one point or another, even briefly, we stay connected to them on an energetic level. So we're picking up energy from each other, we're transmitting it to each other, to everything in our environment as well. We are all part of this beautiful matrix. It's all really us. You and I are exactly the same thing. We are simply pieces of that same source energy, that quantum field, that Planck field. Way back in the day, they called it the ether, but don't call it that in scientific forums now because they'll laugh at you and think you're a rube. So call it the Planck field, and everybody thinks you're really intelligent, but it's the same thing. So, if we are all connected and we are all part of this beautiful source energy that makes matter out of our thoughts and perceptions, what does that mean? It means we are that energy that creates things. We are that. We are the divine. We are the creator beings of this universe. And just like your baby toe is not simply a part of you, but you yourself, we as individuals are part of this larger body called the creative universal source. So, that means that you are the creator, you are source, you are God. You are part of it. You are sacred. You deserve to be revered. You deserve to be respected. And you are so much more powerful than you have ever been led to believe. You create your life from the get-go. Each and every one of us, we've all heard the phrase law of attraction and how to put it to work for you. You've probably read the books and read The Secret and all of that stuff. And you've probably said, okay, well, that's really nice thinking as well. But law of attraction has been working for you your entire life, just not in the way you wanted it to. Think of all the times in your life where you've been worried about something happening and it did. Or let's say you were thinking of an old song and then suddenly it pops up on the radio next time you go in the store and you're like, that's so crazy. Or you're thinking about calling somebody and you pick up the phone and oh my God, they're already on the phone and didn't even dial. These things have happened to each and every one of us, and we like to call it coincidence or serendipity, but no. It's that energy that connects us all instantaneously. It's that lovely little connection that we have with each other because it's like your toe talking to your knee. It's instantaneous. It's connection. It's communication. So, if you are controlling your life, that sounds great. Oh my God, I get to make all these choices and I'm powerful and I get to be this creator of everything and I'm going to make everything so great. But that also means, oh, I'm to blame for all the crap that's happened to me over my life too. And sometimes that can feel really shitty. Sorry to use bad language, but it does, let's be honest. However, you can't beat yourself up over things like that, about not knowing how you were creating that energy in the past, because it's like if I were to say, give someone a car, and they've never even conceived of a car before, never saw one, and I said, here, drive to London, and they get in, and they're like, I don't know, there's buttons and levers and pedals and wheels, I don't know what any of these do, and if I were to just let them go with it, they'd probably ram themselves into a tree or a ditch and kill 7 people on the way doing it. That's because they haven't been taught how to do it. So your entire life up until this point, until you realize that you actually have control, you've just been in a car and not realized how to drive it. Now you have the owner's manual. You know how to steer, you know how to brake, you know how to clean the windshield, you know how to turn the lights on, you even know how to turn the radio on. It's all good now. And the more you do it, just like when you first started to learn to drive, the better you get. You start to learn when to ease off on the gas, and how soon to push on the brake, and how far you got to turn the wheel. It's about practice makes perfect. Which, again, sounds great. But, I keep throwing butts in there. You've also had your entire lifetime of training in this lovely little society that we've built that keeps us connected to our amygdala. Does anybody know what the amygdala is? Sometimes people pronounce it amygdala, same difference. It's right at the very center of our brain. It's the very first part of our brains that developed when we were back in our reptile days. And we were all little lizards hiding under rocks. And all we cared about was finding a mate, finding food, and not dying. That was it. So it's always looking for what's going to keep me alive, what's going to keep me procreating into the future, what is going to be of damage to me. That's all it sees. It's constantly looking for these things. Unfortunately, most of the time in our lives, we are not, under threat of starving. We rarely have to fight a puma anymore or run from an avalanche. So our amygdalas are kind of preoccupied with other things. It's going to find threats in our everyday lives. And because it's bored, because we're not fighting pumas anymore, it's really, really looking for something to do. And it will find problems. It will find things to worry about, feel anxious about, feel angry about. in just about every area. That amygdala is connected to your fight or flight response, which is also connected to your adrenal glands. So your adrenal glands are there to help give you energy so that you can run from that avalanche or fight the puma, which you're not doing anymore. Terrible for you, because if you don't actually use the hormones that come out from your adrenals, within 30 minutes it gets converted to fat, and usually around the belly. So you can tell I have a lot of stress. I haven't mastered all of this yet either, folks, and life is all about learning and growing, and you don't have to be perfect. And if anybody tells you you have to, explain to them that there is no perfect, because we are all growing and expanding into infinity. There is no perfect, so you are perfect. Ta-da! And if they have a problem with that, they can call me and I'll back you up. All right, so when we are constantly, even though we're trying to use the law of attraction properly and realize that we are creative, powerful beings and find ourselves sacred, we're coming up with these things from our life that have been ingrained in us since we came onto the planet. Here I am at birth, and I'm suddenly having awareness. Between the ages of birth and age 7, kids are like sponges. We're constantly absorbing. Our brains are picking up and trying to figure out the rules on how to get along in this world. And that's where we picked up all that stuff with the ego and trying to fit in and the stressing and all that stuff. And a lot of times along the way, as we're doing that, we're also picking up these lovely little programs that run in the back of our minds, in our subconscious. And our subconscious mind actually runs about 95% of your life. Pretty much 95% of your day, you are not choosing, you're just following instructions from the programs that have been going on in the background. Now the problem with this is most of us did grow up in this society where we have been trained to stress, and we've been trained with all sorts of belief systems that are really erroneous, and they can be damaging. Okay, for instance, say when you were 7, your grandmother said, men just don't take beautiful girls seriously. And then you heard somewhere down the line somebody talking, and you heard, maybe it was the lady in the line at the grocery store, and she said something like, you got to be attractive to get anywhere and be successful in this world, because nobody else, will even give you any attention otherwise. So you've got two beliefs going on in the background now. You've got one that says you have to be attractive to be successful, and you've got another one that says if you're attractive, you'll never be successful. And they're completely sabotaging you. And you wonder why you can't get ahead in your career. You wonder why you have, feelings of unworthiness when it comes to your attractiveness and it comes to, being seen in the world by a mate. It's because these things are going on in the background. Or maybe you heard every month when your dad sat down to do the bills, there's just never enough. It's the damn government, and it's the rich are too greedy, and they just never let the little guy get ahead. So these are all the things that you hear, and you see your dad, stressing out, and mom tells you, oh, you have to go in the other room, dad's working on the bills, don't upset him. So then in the back of your mind, as you grow up and you have bills of your own and you're trying to make your way in the world, you have this belief that keeps holding you back that you'll never get ahead and there's not enough and money is scary. How on earth are you supposed to become an abundant, successful person when you're afraid of money? You're constantly going to be sabotaging yourself. So all of these things are running in your background, and it's all been programmed in since you were 7 years old. And I want you to think of you and how you were and how you thought and how you reacted in the world from age 7 and as far back as you can remember. Would you want that kid running your life? Is that who you want making your decisions? Because that's who is making your decisions. Most of your life is being run by the programming that was set in by that kid. That kid who had no life experience to, have to gauge anything on. That kid who really didn't have, any frame of reference. That kid who didn't have a lot of worldly knowledge or experience to go back to and say, is this correct? It just took in information that grown-ups they trusted said and programmed it into the back of your mind. So, now that you know that, how are you going to fix it? By thinking better, by ignoring all the bad stuff and just thinking positive. I'm not going to say I don't want you to do that, because I think the more positive you can think, the better. However, you've got to go in and you've got to take a look at the programming that's there and change it to how you actually want it. When we change the way we think, we change the outcomes of our life. We change the way we project ourselves into the world. We change the opportunities that come to us and that we even recognize as opportunities. We change our ability to see ourselves as worthy for these new choices. So it makes a huge difference. And how do you make all those changes? Well, practice. A lot of introspection, a lot of work. I'm not going to tell you it's an overnight thing. It is something that you have to actually try at. You have to put in the work, but it is so worth it when you can see yourself making changes. So when there are little things, and you can take a look at, why am I making these decisions? Why am I constantly attracting the same kind of guy who ends up disappointing me? Why do I keep getting the same dead-end jobs? Why can I, why do I have that same argument with my sister over and over again? It all comes down to that programming, and when you can take a look and see what that programming is and decide to change it, even simply being aware of it, rather than having it running in the subconscious, makes a huge difference. It opens you up to new choices and alternatives. It opens you up to changing the pattern. And when you need help with that, that's where I come in. Because I can help with releasing all of that on an emotional level, on a mental level, even on a physical level, because we tend to hold all of these things because we're just energy. It's kind of like, plucking the strings on a guitar that's well tuned. Eventually, all that plucking sends it out of tune. You have to tune it up again. There you go. So you have to put yourself into the state of mind. Every morning when you get up, you're going to find yourself going, oh, another day and I got to go to work and I can't believe there's all these things I have to do and so I have to call. You're going to stop, remind yourself, I'm a sacred, powerful being and I can change these patterns. And if there's something that doesn't feel good, I have the power to choose to change it for myself. Now, do you think that you're going to remember tomorrow morning that you're a sacred being? When you wake up, head lifts up, the alarm goes off, freaks you out of your lovely dream, you wake up, okay, I gotta shower and I gotta go to work, and oh my god, I didn't put those pants in the dryer, they're still in the washing machine, what am I gonna wear? You've been there. Are you gonna remember tomorrow morning that you're a sacred being and that you have all the power, influence, and potential in the universe? You will if you practice. You will if you set aside a little time every day to remind yourself. You will if you try to. And it might mean that 3 days go by and you were stressed out and you were harried and you were really cranky with your kids and you yelled at your dog. But then you're going to go, ooh, shoot. I was living in that little life again. I forgot I was a sacred being. Oopsie! So sorry. Didn't mean that. I forgot. And every time you actually remind yourself that, oh right, I have power to change this. I don't have to live in this cycle and just get swept up with the flotsam anymore. I can control where I'm headed. Every time you remind yourself, you actually neural pathway in your brain. You will actually create little ripples in your mind. And every time you remind yourself that, oh, I have different choices I can make here. Ooh, this can be better. I don't have to just follow along with this. The neural pathway that you put in gets stronger and stronger. And your mind becomes more and more habituated to using it over time. It's kind of like if you've got a forest, and there's a path through the forest. It's kind of a scary path. And there's this big rock you always bump your foot on, and there's this spider that bites you and a snake that scares you. But you're very, very familiar with this path, and you're used to dealing with the snake and the rock and the spider, so you just keep going down this path. That's your old way of thinking. However, it's a big forest, and you can turn to your right and go, ooh, I'm gonna plow through all these weeds and trees here. There's no path in front of me, but I'm going to chart one. This is starting to make a new choice and deciding that, oh yeah, there are other options for me. The first time you go down it, there's nothing there. You're just kind of pushing your way through. But if you look behind you, the weeds are going to kind of be separated, and you can kind of see a little path. And the next time you have the choice to go through that forest again, you can go through the old path. It's very easy to see, and you know how it goes, but it's painful and scary. Or, oh, I can see over here. Yeah, there's this little path. And it's just a little bit of weed separation, but I know I can get through there. The more you take that new path, eventually those weeds get trampled down and they all die away. And then the dirt starts to show through, and it gets nice and trampled and hard, and it's easier to walk on. And eventually, as you're walking through, that little path is going to become a superhighway, and it's going to be the one your mind just naturally wants to take. Now you can do all of this. You can do it on your own. It takes time. Or you can come see me and I can help you with it, because that is exactly what I have trained myself to help people do over the last 30 years. I will help you get through that new path to the destination you choose, rather than the one that you just feel that you have to take because it's the only way you see. Because you deserve it. You deserve to have a happy life. That's what you came here for. That's what you decided to come in as source energy and materialize on this physical plane for. To expand in the physical realm and see what you can do here. If you're ready to make changes in your life for the better, do it. And if you need help, come see me. I'll make it easier. Thank you, everybody.